This is Dan and Lexi from Dan Schultz Outdoors, reminding you to keep the adventures alive. Hey y'all, I'm Johnny.
And I'm Colleen. And we're the Keel Quest. And we want you to keep the adventures alive. Cheers!
Hey, this is Darren from Ride Paddle Repeat, encouraging you to keep the adventures alive.
This is David from Beasley Ironworks saying keep the adventures alive.
I'm Jay. Let's go. From Jay's Way, keep the adventures alive.
Hi, I'm Kevin Collin, the Happy Camper. Remember, keep the adventures alive. Awesome!
Woo, buddy! Shug here! Keep the adventures alive. I am.
Ethan here, the Avid Outdoorsy guy, reminding you to keep the adventures alive.
We're John and Aaron.
Keep the adventures alive.
Hey everyone, it's Kylan from Lure of the North, and I encourage you to keep the adventures alive.
This is Sky North telling you, keep the adventures alive. And now on with the show.
Tonight's episode of CANOEHOUND'S Outdoor Adventure Show is brought to you by OTG Meals. Fresh, freeze-dried, small-batch meals made for people on the go. Algonquin Outfitters, with 4 key locations in and around Algonquin Park to serve your backcountry needs. Kid Products, stick stoves and reflector ovens proudly made in Canada. And Novacraft Canoes, connecting you with nature in Canadian-made canoes since 1970. Hey, well, happy Tuesday, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of CANOEHOUND'S Outdoor Adventure Show, a show that's going to bring you a lot closer to the great outdoors. My name is Dennis, also known as CanoeHound, and if this is your first time tuning into the program, thanks very much for joining us. We got a barn burner for you tonight, that's for sure. Before we do get on with tonight's guest, I do have a few announcements, as I always do, while the chat over there gets populated. You know what? Just got back from a fantastic weekend down in Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin. We were down, well, me and a good friend were down there for Canoecopia. My first time experience at Canoecopia, and let me tell you, it was a fantastic time. We had the opportunity to, one, take in this huge show with hundreds of vendors. Got to see so many different great presentations, and of course we got to meet all kinds of great people like yourselves, many of you that are in the chat there tonight, as well as some of my favorite YouTubers and personalities that I haven't had the opportunity to meet yet. It was really awesome to get to meet so many of you, over dinner and over a few cocktails. It was just a fantastic weekend. I will say this, and I'm sure many of you are probably feeling the same way because that experience is so overwhelming. Come back totally exhausted. Yesterday was a total write-off as far as my functionality after a plane flight home. And by the time I got home, I was just so tired. Flew out of Madison at about 7 a.m. in the morning. And by the time I got home, I was sort of mid-afternoon. But you know what? All is good because the adventure was totally, totally worth it. The one thing I will say, and for this gearhead, I didn't really get the opportunity to purchase anything because we did fly down. So any of my big purchases are now on my wish list, right? So that's something that I'll have to be mindful of in the future, is to pick up some of the really cool and awesome products that I've seen down there, and gathered a bunch of information for my upcoming trips this summer as well. So yeah, Canoecopia was well worth the effort. Just want to welcome one of my new sponsors, as you can see up here, Salis Marine. They are, if you know, makers of PFDs, and they are Ontario made, so they're made in Canada here. Fantastic products. Proud to have them on board. Thank you very much for your support. That's a good thing. And a couple more things. Let's see. Coming up this Saturday in Toronto is the Toronto Sportsman Show. Actually, it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's a long show. I will be there on Saturday between noon and 3 o'clock at the Kid Products display to say hi to anybody that might want to come on by. I can show you some of the cool stick stoves that they produce, and reflector ovens as well. So please do stop on by their booth if you happen to go to the Toronto Sportsman Show, and say hello. Stop by and say hello. Another announcement too for another event that's coming up on March the 25th, which is the Ontario Backcountry Canoe Symposium. Tickets are for sale for that there. I will be at that event as well. It's a one-day event. It's a great time. There's going to be some great presenters and a whole bunch of great vendors there to get you ready for the upcoming paddling season. And something I can say about one of our sponsors, OTG Meals, I believe they're going to be there with a whole new menu, some new branding, and a lot of food, and a great pricing on their food as well. So please do stop by and check out OTG Meals at that event. As usual, I always like to shout out my channel members. Thank you to all of you for your ongoing support. Your names are ticking across the bottom there. And for anybody that might be interested in becoming a channel member to help support the channel a little bit, down probably around here, no, over here somewhere, there's a join button. Click on it sometime and just have a look and see if it's for you. Great way to support the channel, and also through Buy Me a Coffee, which is probably even a better way to support the channel because it's not as many fees that YouTube takes away from you. So yeah, by all means, if you can support in any way, it is greatly appreciated. Couple of special birthday wishes going out to Mark Pinard and also Maxim Budnick, who are both celebrating birthdays this week. So happy birthday to you guys. And you know what? If anybody out there is celebrating some sort of big event, you know what? Please do drop me an email at canoehound@gmail.com. I'll put that on the screen there. And you know what? I'd be more than happy to announce, whether it's birthday, anniversary, birth announcement, or, you know what, if you think maybe a divorce or something is something joyous, we'll even mention that. It doesn't matter. As long as it's something that brings a smile to your face, let me know, and we'll get that taken care of. Let's see here. Once again, you know what? Tonight, this guest will obviously garner a lot of different comments throughout the show. I'm going to try and get as many questions up on panel as I can. If you can please just put the word question before your question so I can easily recognize it. And if you put it in capital letters, it'll be that much more recognizable. I might not get right to it, but I will star it. And towards the end of the show, we'll do like a little quick question and answer rapid fire with Les tonight. And we'll try and get through that quickly. But yeah, by all means, please do get your questions in there, as we'd like to have it. And if we have the opportunity, we may even open up the panel to a couple of you for a few questions, but we'll see what happens after the 8 o'clock hour. Yeah, you know what? I think that's probably about it. Let's get in with the guest of honor tonight. Something that we've all been really excited to see and bringing into the show. Tonight's guest is someone who almost every outdoors person knows or is familiar with. His popular original TV series, Survivorman, is still watched by many who gain information and knowledge from him. His music career and now his new TV series, amongst his other projects, have him busy all the time. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Les Stroud. Les, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, good. I understand you're on a very busy schedule these days.
I don't know that that's ever not going to be my case. It's whether years ago and probably years into the future, it just seems to always be the way for me.
I know, man. Geez, life just keeps rolling along and it gets faster and faster, doesn't it?
Well, it does in my world, but I'm not sure if it's getting faster and faster. I think it's just staying at a very fast speed.
Yeah. Well, you, like many of us, we probably all need a clone, right? Don't you wish you had a twin brother or something sometime to?
No, because then they'd steal the thunder. I'm happy to do it all myself.
That's awesome, man. Well, you know what? First of all, privilege to have you on the show. It was also a really cool privilege for me and many others to meet you a couple of weeks ago at the Outdoor Adventure Show in Toronto. You were there as a presenter on the main stage, and then took a bit of time to do a bit of signings and some meet and greet at your display. What'd you think of the show?
Oh, I love it. You know, Fred Cox and the whole gang that does the outdoor adventure shows, they really do it up well. I mean, they have weathered the storms and persevered and created a great atmosphere over many, many years now. They've been doing this a long time. And so, you know, they've seen the industry do its peaks and valleys. They weathered through the whole pandemic period, and which significantly impacted anything in person of large gatherings, you know, obviously. And yeah, Fred and the gang, they do a great job. And so it's always pretty cool and a bit of an honor for me to be able to go and be part of those outdoor shows, whether the one in Toronto or if I make it to Vancouver, Calgary, I think Montreal. Because in many ways, it's like just like going home for me. I mean, I recognize half the people in the hall. I recognize half the businesses in the hall. Those are halls that I used to traipse down and looking at all the new gadgets and devices for getting out and adventuring. So it's a very natural place for me to be. There's like very low stress and low pressure on me when I'm there because I'm home. And then on top of that, the turnout, you know, it's over the top. It's just through the roof. I mean, the last time I was there and then this past time that I was there, I don't know how many the room seats. Let's assume it seats, I don't know, 700 or 800 or 900, something like that. Packed to capacity, spilling out into the hallway. People couldn't even get in this time. There were people who missed my talk because that big room, I'm sure if the fire marshal ever came by, they'd go, whoa, 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 because it was that busy. So we're really honored, and it's a lot of fun that way. It makes it, dare I say it, as a person just coming out to meet the people who are familiar with and fans of his work. It's easy because they're all there. They know me, they know my work, and I know where they're all coming from. So I do love the outdoor adventure shows.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And that you mentioned that it's like a homecoming of sorts for you because you still, I believe, have a place up north. So it's an opportunity for you to come from your home where you probably are now and go up there and spend a bit of time there, maybe you know, gather the senses or whatever. So it must have been a pretty good opportunity for you as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, certainly in the Toronto situation, you know, when they have it in Toronto, that's why anything that happens in Toronto for me that is based on business, although this is kind of a blend of business because I'm there to do that thing and fun because I would want to go there anyway. So certainly in the case of Toronto, I mean, anywhere else, it's going to be a flight. But in the case of Toronto, yeah, I'm back up to my places. I have a place up in Huntsville, Ontario, and I have a place up in Temagami. Nice. Although this time of year, Temagami is going to require some snowshoes, so different trek.
All right, that's cool. Now, when I had the opportunity to meet you briefly there at the show, because Saturday at that show was quite the zoo, and you know, I didn't get the chance to get in there for the presentation for the simple reason that you said it was jam packed, and it was standing room only outside of the hall, right? So, yeah, it was something that, well, I'm not going to get in there to see this. I listened for a brief moment, and then I said, okay, this is kind of crazy, but come back and. Had the opportunity. Actually, I think it was Joe Robinette and myself. We come over to meet you and chatted with you for a few minutes. And the one thing that I did ask, I don't know if you remember, but it was something along the lines of, I asked you what you wanted to talk about tonight on the show. I know last time you were on, we spoke of Survivorman and how you got your start with that and talked a bit about your childhood and everything. And you mentioned to me that you wanted to talk about some of the projects that you have on the go now. And I thought that's a great idea. Everybody knows Survivorman. For the most part, most people know Survivorman. They watch Survivorman. So I thought tonight we would sort of tickle into some of the neat things that you have on the go right now, which you have some really cool things on the go. Let's start with maybe like your Wild Harvest program.
Yeah, what a joy that has been. So the story behind that is that a number of years ago, I want to say maybe 8 or 9, I went down, and I think I want to say Mexico, to take part in what was an ill-fated attempt of a different producer to do a bit of a cooking show thing. And it was on that journey that I met Chef Paul Rogalski. We hit it off really well. We're having dinner and we're all chatting about different things we can do. And it's like, we really should do a show together sometime, and, basically expand on what we're kind of doing right here for this thing that we were doing. But, make it our series where, and I'd go out and forage, and you bring the stuff into the kitchen and make something amazing out of it. So we both said, yeah. And then that was the end of that. And then 5 years later, I was flying through Calgary, and I said, listen, I'm flying through. Do you want to hook up and have a beer, at the airport or something like that? He happened to be flying through that day too. So we hooked up at the airport. We had a beer, and I said, why don't we bring this back up? Why don't we do this? So then again, one thing leads to another. He introduced me to his friend, who was doing great stuff in the culinary world and filming, called Kevin. His name is Kevin Kosowin. So the three of us kind of got together and said, and said, let's just do this. And I think I was the one who said, look, the only way this is going to happen is if we just do one ourselves. Let's go do one on our own dime. And that way we discover if we like each other. We discover if we can work together. We discover if there's proof in this concept. So we did. And then long story short, and fast forwarding through a few different connections in that, ended up speaking with American Public Television, PBS down in the States, and some funding companies, which ended up being Forest River RVs. Lo and behold, we landed being able to do 2 full seasons. So now we've done 2 full seasons of Wild Harvest, 26 episodes, shot them all around North America, predominantly in Canada. And it is a joy and a thrill to produce this show. If your viewers haven't seen it, it's called Les Stroud's Wild Harvest. It's on Cottage Life Television in Canada. It's also on my YouTube channel, Survivorman Les Stroud. Every episode's there. And what happens is it's 26-minute episode. I take you out for the first half of the episode and I show you local foraging. That could be dandelions or, pine needles or fireweed or mussels or cattail. Could be any number of things. And I show you the dangers and the safeties, precautions, and how to recognize, mustards and radishes and different plants. And then I go out, gather some of these, and that's all the first half of the show. And then the second half of the show, is Paul's challenge. He takes over and he has to turn them into something amazing in the kitchen. Well, I had no idea that Paul, whose restaurant, Rouge Restaurant in Calgary, Alberta, was listed in the top 100 of all restaurants in the world. This guy presents, his plates look like Picasso made them. They're utter works of art. They're just stunningly beautiful. And he's done that with an ingredient he's never touched before or worked with before. So it was really fun because even in the show, we discovered some of the great parts of the show was, okay, you know what's special here? Can you imagine if you're a chef and you go down to the market and you pick out your marbled piece of meat or your specialty tuna or something like that? And we'll assume we're talking about sustainable harvesting. Well, what if you could actually go and meet the cow, meet the fish? No chef ever does that, or very rare. But in the case of local foraging, you can do that. You can go and I can have Paul sit in amongst a field of tumbleweed mustard and say, now get to know the plant. Because when we leave here today, these plants stay here. 365 days a year, this plant is growing right here. And you're about to harvest of it. So get to know this stinging nettle. Get to know these cedar trees. And he would do that, creating a philosophical angle to his thinking and his creating of the dish he was going to create for me. So for me, it's just a joyous continued endeavor into what I've always wanted to do with everything that I do. reconnect people to nature. It's just like Survivorman and survival. Heck, just like going after, playing in the world of Bigfoot. Either way, I don't care. I just want people out in the woods. And so local foraging is a way to get people back out and connected to nature. So in the end, and we're working on getting season 3 going now. In the end, for me, easiest production I ever did in my life. I mean, I go out for day 1, Les shoots in the field. Day 2, Paul cooks, and we're done. Next, and we go off to a new location. So it's a 2-day production for an entire episode. It's brilliant, as far as that goes. And that is Wild Harvest. And I got to say, it's been a joy to present it to everybody.
How far in advance are you filming these episodes? Like you said, you got 26 episodes, and how far in advance are you doing these? Is it like, shoot and cut and out the next week type of thing, or are these all bundled together and then put out as a package to the,
they're
PBS?
bundled. They're bundled together because delivering them to television networks is more of a traditional production editing schedules, formula. And so we'll do 13 episodes, which is just a outdated but still existing old mode of numbers for delivering television series. We'll shoot 13 episodes, and then we'll edit 13 episodes, and then we'll deliver 13 episodes.
Okay, that's cool. So similar to one of the pro fishermen that lives in my area. He said they got to piece them all together and get them all out at the same time, type of thing. So over your career as Survivorman, you've eaten some, we'll just say, some pretty funky things, things that pop into my mind, just like, the grubs that you were digging out of the trees, and your grasshoppers and scorpions. What are some of the more unique things that Chef Paul has actually prepared for you that you've foraged out on these shows? Give people an idea of some of the cool concoctions he's come up with.
Well, one connection we made back to Survivorman was actually I gave him pond lily tuber, which is so horrible tasting in many ways. And he figured out a way to process the juice from the tuber to use it like a salt, like a bitter vinegar or something. And, so that was kind of a thrill to me. And another connection actually to Survivorman, or at least to survival, was I gave him rock tripe. And rock tripe, it looks like house shingles. It feels like leather. And that man managed to take that rock tripe and turn it into the most delicious miso soup. And it was all, just tender and succulent. So he's able to take some of these more. It's fun when when I'm able to I can bring him stuff that's a out of the park, easy hit. Like I can bring him cattail. That's an easy one. It already tastes good. Pick it and it tastes good. So that's easy. But I like bringing him the challenges and saying, okay, this tastes like crap. So what do you think? And he has defied me every single time he's won that game and made something that otherwise is a little difficult to process, or it might be considered fine as a survival food, but not very palatable other than that. And he has made it palatable. Did the same thing with reindeer moss, reindeer lichen. Made it the guy deep fried it in brown butter. It was, and put blueberries and cream on it. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So yeah, he's able to do that. Again, I encourage anybody who's watching this, who's in Calgary, his restaurant is Rouge Restaurant, to go there, say hi. We were able, also, the fun thing with this too, is now we put out the recipe book from each season of Wild Harvest. So season 1 is out, season 2 is almost out. And I just said, your stuff is too good. We have to put these recipes out there. And so we've done that now, and we will continue to do so. And I think, huge kudos to Paul, because his recipes are worth having in the kitchen to try out. You look outside and you go, oh my gosh, it's dandelion season. Oh, what did Chef Paul do on Wild Harvest? Yeah. Oh, he made a green goddess sauce with dandelions. Whoa, how did he do that? Okay, I'm going out to pick some dandelions. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, I seen that. I was perusing your Wild Harvest website, and there's a book, and then there's also a number of the recipes, and all the episodes are listed on there as well, so people can easily access them, which is very convenient, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's cool. So now you also you had your cinematographer Kevin. How that relation come to be? Was he somebody that you've worked with all along, or is it just for this for the Wild Harvest program?
No, Paul brought Kevin into the scenario and
Okay.
introduced Kevin to me over Zoom. And so, and you know, we both have very similar loves and likes in the world of local foraging, hunting and gathering, bush crafting, primitive skills. He's all in. You know, he's in for a penny, in for a pound kind of thing, and that whole world and that lifestyle. Now, granted, you know, I'm once removed from all of that now, but it was my life for a very long time. You know, at least 15 years of my life was, you know, big in the bushcrafting world, primitive earth skills, hunting, fishing, survival skills. So Kevin's big on that, but he also is a very, very talented filmmaker and cameraman, and so he had that skill down. He has a series called From the Wild, which is terrific. He has that on Vimeo. And so I was able to take a look at that, see what kind of work he did. You know, now I put my producer's hat on going, hey, this is great. He's a nice guy. Thanks for introducing me, Paul, but I still got to see his stuff. And his stuff was brilliant. And so that was that. And then even through the pandemic, because it was just Kevin and Paul and I, we were still able to kind of sneak out and shoot our series. We shot an entire season in the middle of the pandemic when the world was shut down. We got out and filmed because it was just the three of us. And we were just out in nature. So we were able to, we drove to places to travel, you know, things like that. So we kept our bubbles safe, and we got out and you know, and we were able to film the series. So the three of us together is really, now Kevin is moving on to other stuff at this point. We're all still great friends, but he's moving on some other stuff. But it was really what I consider, you know, the wonderful creative powerhouse of the number of three. When you can get three creative individuals together in the room, you can really do magic. And I think Wild Harvest has shown that. And in fact, we had just got nominated for 3 Canadian Screen Awards. So we're going to be heading to the Canadian Screen Awards. I'll be going back again. This now represents the 30th nomination, which I'm pretty sure is a record that I've received for my work or work I'm involved with and have produced from the Canadian Screen Awards. So Wild Harvest is up for Best Music, which includes me and Kevin, mostly Kevin, but me as well, and David Bateman and a couple other people. Best Camera for Kevin, and then I believe Best Series for all three of us. So
awesome, that's incredible. Well, best of luck with that. Hopefully, everything goes through quite well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you incorporate much of your music into your shoots or into your productions?
All the time, constantly, as much as I can, and never as much as I want to. So I've written the theme songs for everything I've ever done,
right?
And I contribute the background music here and there sporadically as much when I can. I work with great friends who also do the heavy lifting on that. Right now, I'm. Well, as you're going to probably get to, we're going to be launching Survivorman VR, and I'm scoring the music, trying to score as much of, if not almost all of the music for that. And I will certainly do all of the music for that moving forward. So yeah, it's always been my thing and my way. You know, I mean, my life has always been on these two parallels. One is creative and music endeavors. The other one is adventure, wilderness adventure and nature.
Mm-hmm.
And so combining them has always been a no-brainer and an obvious thing for me. And my life doesn't work when they battle against each other. My life works just fine when they're running parallel, but my life works the best, and I'm living the best version of me when my love of wilderness adventuring and my love of music and creating combine.
Right.
And so, you know, putting my music onto my adventurous films, or writing lyrics that pertain to adventuring in the wilds. My new album coming out, and I know I'm dancing around now. We'll get to music.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
My
I
new
wanted to
album
talk
coming
about
out
that
now.
too.
Yeah, my new album coming out now lyrically certainly focuses that way. So my life revolves around really, or I've submitted, you know, let's say, how do I put this? I finally figured out that it's never one against the other. I don't have to put one against the other. I don't have to have one without the other. And in fact, when I combine them, I'm in my zone.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's pretty incredible, and I could see what keeps you going and motivated all the time when you speak of it that way. You know, you're taking your two passions and you're trying to bring it together all the time. Obviously,
and I'm very lucky, to be able to do that. You know, there's few of us that can combine our passions. Sometimes we have to live separate lives or separate worlds, but I've been able to combine them, and I enjoy that greatly. And I said, I know we'll talk about my music and we'll talk about Survivorman VR, but those are examples of where I've certainly adapted my music to what I was working on creatively.
Multi-talented. That's what you are. Multi-talented, right?
Well, I get bored easily.
That's cool. So with Wild Harvest, and you said that you're like, season 2 is set to conclude soon. Is there a season 3 in the works?
No. I said season 3 is about to start. Season 2 is done.
Oh, season 3 is about to start. Okay. And when can we expect that?
The fall, I would hope.
Yeah. But in the meantime, you have these other things that you're working on launching right now. So that let's bring that right into your VR game, The Descent. This is something that probably many people would not expect from Les Stroud, Survivorman. What's the story behind the VR game, and how is that coming along?
Well, I mean, it's really just a matter of it's an opportunity that, and it's one that I've talked about for years, right from the beginning. It's like there should be a Survivorman game. Well, well, here I'll first let's set the record straight right now. I'll approach right away any naysayers. It's like that's not getting out in wilderness. That's not that's not nature. You're sitting at home with a headset on, doing the technology thing. That's a bunch of crap. Yeah, well, then tell that to somebody who lives in a wheelchair. Tell that to somebody who can't get outside. A lot of people have been able to vicariously enjoy the wilderness through my film work for a lot of years now, and as I enjoyed it through Jacques Cousteau when I was a kid. A lot of people cannot get out. They cannot afford to get out. They cannot physically get out. So life circumstances will not allow them to get out, or they once got out and all they have is their memories. So putting that to bed right now is to say, so the VR serves a purpose. I think on a slightly altruistic level when it comes to that. Secondly, it affords an opportunity, not unlike if you were to do, for years they've had helicopter simulators when pilots try to learn how to fly helicopters. It's no different. This is not a game. So we call it a game, but we did not really create a game. What we really tried to create was a survival simulation. So, and you're lucky because you're not cold, you're not wet, you're not tired, you're not hungry, and you're sitting on your couch, but you're able to go to the Arctic or the jungle or the desert with me as your guide. So I'm an actual avatar in the simulation, talking to you, showing up every once in a while, going, hey man, that was really good. That was the way to get your fire going. Now you've got your fire happening. You've got water. We got to start thinking about getting some sustenance. What kind of food's around here? Check it out. And then I disappear, and now you're back and trying to figure out, and like, oh, there's this and that, right? So Survivorman VR The Descent is I teamed up with Cream Productions out of Toronto, which David Brady and I were originally partners on Survivorman, and now this came later. He said, hey Les, we're doing a lot in the VR world. Survivorman's ripe for that. And I said, yeah, sure it is. Of course it is. Well, let's do something. And here we are. So we have the Survivorman VR. And that's what it is. I mean, I don't have the headset with me. Should have had it ready. But in any event, people have seen those big white sort of headsets, the Oculus Quests. We're also launching it on another platform, and they're going to get mad at me for not remembering what it is. Like PC gaming or something like that. I don't know. But I know it's on Oculus Quest, and it's beautiful, and it's very, very cool. And my job in all of that is I'm not a gamer. So my job was to hold their feet to the fire, the people producing it, which is Andy McDonald from Cream, doing a brilliant job. My job was to say, I know you want to put that in there, but that would never happen. And it's my name and face and reputation. So we're not putting that in there. Well, and so they could literally would have these conversations, and I know what they're thinking. They're thinking like, Les, we spent like 8 days building that in the lab, building it all and everything. I'm like, I don't care. That's not survival, and it shouldn't be in the game. Mm-hmm. Don't put it in there, And so it's not so confrontational. We work very well together, but that's my job is to say, okay, what would really happen is this: the snaring a rabbit in the Arctic, for example, is something that's in the Survivorman VR. And that was tricky. At first, it was just comical. And I said, no, you've got to at least allude to the fact that here's what has to happen if you're actually going to snare a rabbit. So we need the players to actually try to, even though they're just holding controllers, do something. And obviously, I have to compromise when it comes to what you can actually do with a controller. You can't tie a knot with a controller. You can't make cordage with a controller, but we can give you that benefit of the doubt. You can suspend your disbelief and say, okay, you found this, you found that, and with a couple of clicks of your thumb, you've made a snare wire, for example, or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the fun of it. And you can tell I'm right into it because we're working on it every day. In fact, if I wasn't on this interview, I'd be working on the music for it right now. That's why I'm literally in my studio, and I'd be working on the music. We are working feverishly on it. It's coming out very soon. And I couldn't be more stoked about it.
Yeah, the information on your website for that, because you got a specific website for that, says that it's early 2023 it's coming out. So keep an eye for that, people. I know at the Outdoor Adventure Show, you actually that's what your display was for your VR or virtual reality. Now, I'm an older guy too, so I trip over that as well, right? But you had people were there actually trying. As a matter of fact, I got a comment here. Resilient Space says, my son tried the game at the show, fell in love with it, came home and put it on his wish list, and is trying to save money up for a VR headset. So
that's pretty. That's Resilient Space. Yeah, that's pretty sweet. Thank you for that. Then that's just it. You know, we were going to talk about, and I do want to come back to my music. Let's make sure we come back to that.
Oh yes.
Force that issue.
We're in
but
there.
You know, Wild Outside, my children's book. You know, I've won 2 national awards. I'm up for 2 more national awards right now. And what we just saw with that text there, you know, such a thrill that Survivorman in all these years has gone multi-generational now. I have a lot of 32-year-olds saying, I grew up watching you with my dad, with my mom. We got outside. We did this. I became in environmental studies. I went up. I'm in a canoe guide now. I'm all because of watching Survivorman. And now they have kids. And now my son watches it with me so this full circle has been amazing. And so, you know, the real point of, say, having this person's son, you know, playing Survivorman VR is to inspire them to say, okay, at some point it's like a taste, right? It's like, well, this was cool and I've mastered that, but I want to really learn what it is to go out and build a shelter, you know, get them outside.
So the VR game, it's not, is it a game where you can actually win, or is it a game? It's like you say, it's more of a simulator, right?
It's a survival simulation where you can actually die.
Okay.
So the difference is, though, you respawn,
right?
You know, so there are ways that you do it wrong, you die. You do it wrong, you get wet. You do it wrong, you get cold. You do it wrong, you starve. So you've got to do it right. So what am I saying? You have to learn how to survive. You have to learn the methods of survival to make it through the Survivorman VR The Descent and all of the ones to come. Because if you don't, because Les Stroud was there holding the developers' feet to the fire saying, this is what would happen in this situation. If you don't work your way through that, you die. So, you know, again, I hold off calling it a game. Gamers know what I'm saying. It's a pretty powerful simulation.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, like, you know, it's very exciting for you to see these young people taking an interest in this, because ultimately, like, you know, back 20 years ago when Survivorman episodes were coming out, and as I don't know if you remember when we did meet up with you at the Outdoor Adventure Show, Joe Robinette kept saying, "You're the OG, man. You're the OG, right? You're the originator." And I said that a number of times, that, you know, you kind of, well, you did what YouTubers are doing today, but you did it for television, right? Whereas we're doing it for a new platform, being YouTube. But you were the one out there, you know, shooting your own videos and setting up the shot and, you know, putting the camera way the heck up there and then coming back for it after. And I've done this a few times in my videos. I remember you doing it one time. You come walking back, go, got to come back for the camera. And that's it, you know. So in essence, you are the originator of all this type of thing. So I applaud you on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
But to see the new people take an interest, and when, you know, mom and dad bring them to the show and they're excited to meet Les Stroud as well. So you've gone multi-generational now. That's a pretty cool thing.
It's a very cool thing. I mean,
yeah,
I just want to get people back out in nature, get them reconnected to nature, and probably most importantly, kids. You know, I had a woman ask me one time, a long time ago, well, how do I, you know, get my 6-year-old daughter more interested in nature. I said, you live in a house, an apartment? I live in a house. Okay. You have a backyard? Oh, yeah. It's a natural backyard. Is it grass and bushes? Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, next time, it's raining and your child's out in the backyard and playing, don't bring her in. Let her get wet. Let her sit in the mud. Let her get dirt up her fingernails. Let her pull a worm up out of the grass and it breaks off and she comes in crying because that happened. Let all that happen, because those things are indelibly imprinted on us as we grow up. It certainly was for me. And so connecting kids to nature, letting them just be kids don't have these fears that we put in them. Kids don't have natural fears to ants and bumblebees and insects and things and snakes and toads and frogs. They see one adult do that once and they're afraid. Yeah. And it's stirred in them. I'm not talking about I'm not talking about phobias. That's a different psychological world to play in. I'm talking about unnecessary fears of nature. Adults put those in kids. You put a kid out on their own. I keep looking out this way because I'm looking at the bush when I do out there. They, and I'm not going to be that old guy who says, well, we just played with sticks in the mud when we were kids. But more importantly is that all children, when they're young, have a natural affinity to enjoy nature and to be outside in it. And so everything I've ever done, I mean, I might have the dry wit that I hope appeals to an adult. I might have a leaning towards doing things that adults, I hope, find entertaining or educational or edifying. But I certainly will add to that my connection to kids. I connect to kids very, very well. And so, it's ridiculous to think that kids shouldn't be out in nature on a constant basis. That will set them up well for life.
Yeah. So do you know approximately when this VR game is going to be released to the public, and where or how can people get it when it is put out there?
I mean, approximately in the next month or so, I believe. I think it's the beginning of April. And, pretty easy to find it online. You just Google Survivorman VR The Descent. You're going to find it. Okay. I don't even know. I have the Oculus Quest here and I'm supposed to be playing it and going through it, but it's just like, because it's not my thing. I used to play Call of Duty with my son all the time, but it's not my thing just to naturally go to that. I have my other issues and problems that are addictive to me. Like I'm like, you put a Marvel movie on TV and I was like, that's it. And my world just stopped. I'm watching the Marvel movie. So I have my own issues, but that's not one of them is gaming. So I don't know. I'm assuming that you go to Oculus Quest and you download it and you're off and running. But yeah, in about a month, I believe April. I mean, these things tend to get pushed back in time. One, because you're perfecting them. You're working on them and making sure. Another, because of, the bigger powers that be that control marketing have other ideas. And that's got nothing to do with us. But yeah, soon. I'd say April.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I could see this will be something that's really cool for not only kids, but, adults. There's a lot of gaming adults out there for sure. I'm not one of them. I'm not a gamer, but I'd really like to see this and see how it works. And heck, it's a learning experience too, as you mentioned. We can always learn. Right? So that's a cool thing. Just another quick, or not question, but comment from Resilient Space again, saying his son Logan also loved your kids' book. He started reading it during the card ride home, and after dinner, sat in his room and read the rest of it. So, we could scramble or we could bounce around through the show here to different.
Well, things. let's go to the book. I mean, that's a good segue to the book. Yeah. So I had approached a few publishers, but particularly Anik Press in Toronto, and had a couple of different ideas for them. And the bottom line is, I mean, years ago, and still, kids were dressing up for Halloween as me, basically as Survivorman. And I knew, and to me, that was I was honored and thrilled, but it was no surprise. Like, well, you cannot get a better endorsement than that. It's the coolest thing ever. So I knew that eventually I would want to do some kind of children's writing. And so I approached Anik Press and I said, where can we go with this? Well, Claire Caldwell at Anik Press is a brilliant lady. And her and I just worked through a few different possibilities until we landed on the format that this book, Wild Outside, Around the World with Survivorman, is, which was, I could share in some of my adventures And then I could dissect the lessons learned from those adventures, and I could give the kids activities they can do loosely based on those adventures or the lessons. And so we endeavored to do that, and it was so much fun in crafting all of this. And I was just drawing from my own experience. Some of it Survivorman based, some of it just outdoor adventure based, and presented. And it, as I say, it's won 2 national awards: Best Children's Book for Nonfiction, Best Information Book Award, and I'm up for 2 more: the Ham Attack and the Rocky Mountain Book Awards. I'm up for. So it's a thrill, and it's for ages 7 to 12, which really 5 to 14, to be honest with you, because I've seen that. And if you haven't got this book yet, and you're an outdoor adventurer or a nature enthusiast, and you got kids, this is the book. And this is not even the, I have of course, my survival manual, which I wrote years ago, called Survive, which is also still age appropriate. But this was written, the best thing about what writing Wild Outside was that I didn't write it for teachers or for adults or parents. I wrote it to the kids for the kids. So I'm speaking directly to them. But now it's become just like Survive did, it's become a course study manual for teachers in schools when teaching kids about nature, which is a huge honor.
There you go. Just so everybody in the chat over there knows, I actually have links to like all these websites and you know, the things that Les is talking about down in the description. So anytime after the show, all you need to do is come back, go in the description down below, and you'll find all the information here that basically Les is passing on to us. If you're looking for the book, if you're looking for information on the VR game or when it comes out, so you can actually purchase it. So by all means, please do check that out. So when did the book come out, Les? How long has that been in the market now?
I think 1 year.
One
year ago. Yeah.
Is that a
you know, just to interject as a creator who releases a lot of content, this is, I don't think your listeners could give a crap about what I'm about to say, but when you release material, you know, the business side of that, networks, TV networks, film production companies, publishers, everybody seems to be so obsessed with the premiere date of a release of anything. But in this day and age, I mean, look at Survivorman is still being watched by some people for the very first time, and it's 20 years old. You know, it's not, for me, it's never been about, you know, the premiere of anything. So I'm now, like, I haven't yet been out to do a book tour or a library or school tour with the book Wild Outside. So do you think that if I were to contact a library in Ottawa and say, I'd like to come out and just meet your kids, no charge, I'm just going to be there and read from my book Wild Outside, they're going to go, oh no, we can't do that. You released it 18 months ago, so you're past your release date. They're going to be thrilled. The library is going to be very happy for that to happen. But networks and publishers, oh no, it's all about your premiere. And then even in that respect, you've got, depending on what it is, whether it's a song, a book, a film, a TV series, you've got, you know, from 3 months down to 3 weeks. And that's your window. After that, you're not cared about anymore. Nobody cares about what you're doing. I think I've always thought that's ridiculous, because the fans or the people who might be interested in your creations, they still care. So if you're of a 10-year-old and you're into nature and you're just hearing now for the first time that I have a book called Wild Outside that's for your child, do you care if I released it 8 years ago or last week? I don't think so. I mean, I have books that, you know, go way back. Heck, I'm reading the Iliad. Yeah, let's go back a few thousand years, right? So it's not about release date for me. It's about the content.
Yeah, no, by all means.
That was a rant. That was a rant. I get it.
Yeah, no, a good book is will stand a true test of time, right? So, you know, it doesn't matter. I know I pick up some of my outdoors books that I read are from years ago. You know, my authors put out years ago.
How to Stay Alive in the Woods, Branford Angiers, you know, Wilderness Survival Skills, Larry Dean Olson. I mean, you know, these are still, you know, Morris Kochansky, Northern Bushcraft. These are go-to, you know, Dave Westcott's books, go-to books. I don't care if they released them 20 years ago or yesterday.
Yeah, well, let's just hope that your books, well, obviously your books are too. They're standing the test of time, right? So,
I hope,
yeah, you're right. I understand what you're saying there. That really the release date doesn't count. That's not what I was alluding to, anyways. I was just wondering how long it's been since it's been out, because for the most part, a lot of adults, if as soon as they see a children's book, they, okay, they're going to move on maybe to the next one, unless they're thinking about, hey, I could really use this for my grandson, or in my case, same thing, right? I probably pick up a copy and I'll save it for my grandson, and as I'm teaching him about the outdoors, so that he'll learn a little bit more.
And that's the thing too. I think sometimes you either write a book, if it's a storybook, is it a story that resonates forever? If it's a nonfiction book like this, or instructional kind of book, can you keep referencing it, keep going back to it? Can you gift it on to the next generation? And I enjoy writing material that I think, that's not really even, I don't intend that, but I do hope that for the work that I do.
Is there any crossover between the book perhaps and the VR game? The fact that they might both attract a younger audience?
Oh, I think so. Just in the generality of wilderness adventuring, exploring the out of doors, survival out there, wilderness skills. So yeah, the crossover is not a big leap.
That's cool. That's cool, because you know what? Ultimately, and this is one of the things that I learned just this past weekend from the Canoecopia show that I was at there. I was sitting in on a conference there between. It was sort of like a Q&A with Cliff Jacobson, who you're probably familiar with or may have heard of, and our friend Kevin Callan. Same thing. They were both up on stage.
Well, Kevin,
one of the questions that was brought up to the two to discuss or debate was, what do we need to do to get our youth into the backcountry instead of in front of a computer or their cell phone or something along that lines? And they had a rather interesting little 1-minute debate about that and their opinion, what they needed to do, right? What kind of chores do you give them at a camp and stuff like that? So
I think, can you summarize that 1 minute? What was the gist of where we landed on that?
Well, basically they both agreed on kind of the fact that you have to give the kids chores, things to do at the camp, and not be sort of hovering over top of them and saying, no, don't do that. No, don't do that. Alluding back to what you were saying about kids don't have the fear. It's kind of instilled upon them, right?
Yeah, and I would totally agree with those gentlemen, and I know I respect them greatly. When my kids were 5 years old, here, I'll say it this way, just to cause I taught them knife use. 5 years old, I taught them knife use. Now, if I just say that, you're going to go, well, that's pretty irresponsible. Oh, hang on a second. How did I do that? I had them in the kitchen with a butter knife and a mushroom, and I showed them by putting their hand over the mushroom, like over the knife on the mushroom, hand over, and I showed them how to cut mushrooms in the kitchen. This was teaching them knife skills. Now, by the time they got older and they had actual knives in a camping situation, they didn't monkey with them. They didn't play with them. They didn't pretend to stab anybody in a fighting game. Whereas their cousins, who were never allowed to ever even touch a knife, would play stabbing games with pieces of cardboard, pretending they were stabbing, because they didn't learn the realities of knife use. So out in a wilderness situation, it's like, and then we're almost just going to discuss parenting here, but give them chores, but let's be careful with that. You say to someone, we'll give them chores. It depends on who the parent is. Is this going to be a browbeating mother or father who says, you have to do this, and make it miserable for them on a rainy canoe trip morning? And have a heart. This is about getting them to understand that they're part of the expedition. They're part of the adventure. They're part of it. They're not traveling along as add-ons and your kids. They're actually part of it. So their chores, their responsibilities are really helpful to everybody. And they're helpful to the process of being in this canoe, on this river, in this campsite. Like, we really need your help. My kids always got that. And that's different from saying, you need to get out and do this now. That's, we're discussing parenting techniques now, but there's a big difference between getting them to understand that they're sharing in the love of adventuring versus this is a chore you have to do. You're going to make them hate it, Yeah.
So I don't think the chore was so much a direct chore. I think it was more about getting them involved, right? Like, hey, come on, let's go build a fire, right? And coach them along and building a fire.
Let them build the fire. Let them build the fire. Let them fail. Heck, I do that with adults sometimes. It's like, okay, go ahead. I can
Yeah.
see they're not gonna get it. It's like, okay, yeah, big guy, don't want Survivorman to come in and help you because we're all buds right now having a beer. So you go ahead, and I'm watching them not be able to get the fire going. Then I get to mock, when it's adult, I get to mock them and it's go, do you want me to do it? So, but when it comes to, kids and that, yeah, same thing there. My kids were getting our fires going right from the get-go because they need to know how to respect a very dangerous thing, fire. And they need to know how to not get the fire going to be able to get the fire going.
Yeah. And Cliff Jacobson was right there with you on giving a younger person a knife and teaching them the responsibilities of it. He says, first thing I give my grandkids was a pocket knife, Victorinox or something along that line. So yeah, you're right along the same type of thinking as that wise fellow has as well. So that's pretty cool. And
as adventurers, all of us as adventurers, we're not as afraid. I think it's more, and not to come across as condescending, but it's more someone new to the reality of wilderness adventuring, new to canoeing, new to hiking, new to sea kayaking, new to tripping. Someone new. That's where the edification is needed. That's where adults who haven't got the experience you and I have are taking their kids and their grandkids out and they're making drastic mistakes. That's tricky, because how do you instruct them? You have to find the ways for they need to find the ways to learn themselves, but adults are harder to teach than kids. I always used to say if you want to ask me, I would prefer to canoe trip with adults over kids any day, but I would prefer to teach kids over adults any day. I don't like teaching adults and I don't like tripping with kids.
Yeah,
when I say that, I mean like a whole bunch of teenage kids. Yeah, forget it. I'm past that.
Wow, that's cool. You know what? We're coming up here on the 8 o'clock break, but before we just take our quick little commercial break. Last time you were on the show, I don't know who it was. It might have been Hap Wilson or maybe even Kevin Callan who convinced you to pull out your guitar and play us a little tune. And I'd like to really get into your music and talk about what's going on there. You said you have some new recordings coming out, and I'd like to hear how things are going there, because I know you're very passionate about your music, obviously incorporating it into all your workings. So maybe we can get into some of that. Would you be up for playing everybody a little tune?
Won't be able to play because I don't have no.
Okay.
But I can definitely talk it up. And the reality is that having been a writer since I was 14 years of age, and keeping the whole thing going, the pandemic got in the way for me like it did for everybody else. But right before the pandemic, I was really focused on my music. I was working on 2 new albums. I'm now just finishing them. It's just tremendous. I've been able to bring on the one album. It's right up this alley of conversation. Because it is my more acoustic roots album, and it's called the album's called Mother Nature's Son. One of the lead songs is called Take a Hike, and Cold is the River, and I do a cover of Mother Nature's Son by Paul McCartney. So it's very focused on my celebrating nature and connecting to nature lyrically and musically. And I was very blessed and fortunate to bring none other than Colin Linden on board to produce it. So Colin has produced the album. We're mastering it today. What day is this? It's Tuesday. Sorry, we master it on Thursday. We master it in New York. We brought Bruce Coburn on. He came on board to play with me on a track. And so I couldn't be more thrilled. I've got another album that I'm producing with none other than Mike Klink, who's famous for Guns N' Roses and Aerosmith and Beth Hart. That's a sort of a bigger concept album, a little more rockier in its approach, bigger band. So I am very, very busy. I'm doing all the music for my Survivorman VR. I'm doing looking at scoring some new films. So I am constant with my music. And when I go out and perform now, I've got a concert coming up outside of Ottawa at Burnstown at the Neat Cafe, August 12th. Don't want to miss that. There's still some tickets available, barely. So I'm going to be playing there. I'm going to be playing a sold-out show at Nature's Harmony Eco Lodge in March, although we just opened up a new night on the Friday night is open now at Nature's Harmony. So that's a concert I'm playing. When you come and see these shows, this is me, predominantly solo, sometimes with a band like at the Neat Cafe. And, these are concerts, performances where my music is talking about and celebrating nature. Even when I do a love song, I usually use nature as a metaphor. And so that musical apple did not fall far from my adventurous tree, so to speak. And I am releasing, I'm pulling almost everything off of online, all my videos, all my music, pulling it all off. Well, not the music's got to stay on Spotify and stuff, but I'm relaunching in about a month, in June, I'm relaunching everything musically with hundreds of videos, live performances, conceptual videos, and 40 new songs that people have not heard, all the catalog. So I'm going full on with an agenda to be a pop star? No. With an agenda to make it big? No. I just have never really concentrated on or given my music the due that I wanted to give it, as far as really focusing on presenting it to the public and getting it out there. And that's what I'm doing, man. That is what I'm doing. And I think for our friends and viewers here and fans of adventure, it's right up the alley of what we love. You might not like the musical stylings I choose. Some of it's very folk, some of it's acoustic rock, some of it's rock. You might not like that. You might not even like me or my singing or anything, but you can't deny that it's definitely, going after what we all love as outdoor adventurers. And if I were to say to continue in the tradition of, I would throw in names such as John Denver. I think John wrote about nature in probably the greatest way. Ian Tamblyn also tremendously has written beautiful stuff. Dave Hatfield also. So there's a lot of writers that I'm just continuing in that tradition. No more, no less. But I'm prolific and I love writing and I continue to write. So yeah, brand new album coming out called Mother Nature's Son, produced by Colin Linden. Brand new album coming out called Leaving It All Behind, produced by Mike Klink. All new songs. Re-release of my Mother Earth album, which features Slash and Steve Vai, more of a epic rock kind of bit of music. That's being re-released on vinyl. I should have all this stuff in my hands and I don't. It's literally in the other room, but that's out now and coming out. I'm re-releasing of that on vinyl. My first ever album on vinyl, and everything new going forward will be released on vinyl as well as online. I'm doing listening parties where I'll play the album and then play it acoustically and then tell the stories. So yeah, so coming up, I've got the concerts at the Neat Cafe. Make sure you're in Ontario, go to that, and Nature's Harmony Eco Lodge. And that's what I'm doing, man. Dennis, I'm just doing everything I can to get all my music out there. I'm going to spend the next dozen years really pushing my music. Not down your throat. I'm just putting it out there. If you like it, great. If you don't, don't listen.
If you like it, dive in. If you don't, dry off, right? So
exactly.
That's awesome. Well, Les, you know what? I got a couple comments I'd like to throw on screen here, but we'll do that right after the commercial. And you mentioned that you have, like, in the other room, you have your some albums and stuff like that. Would you like to show us? Love to see
I'll go grab them.
Okay. I'm going to take a quick commercial break there. Great chance to grab a beverage or get rid of a beverage or whatever for everybody. And we'll be back in about 2 minutes. How's that?
I'll go grab a tea and I'll leave the camera on so I'm still in the room, Dennis.
All right. This is really enjoyable here, everybody. Hope everybody's enjoying tonight's show. It's a little bit of a different twist from the regular Survivorman information, which everybody is quite aware of who Les Stroud is. But this really takes us in a different direction with Les to see what he's actually up to these days. Busy man. And we're very fortunate to have him on with us tonight. So hopefully everybody's enjoying it enough to hit that thumbs up, the like button. And we will be back right after this commercial break.
There's nothing like being out there. For over 50 years, we've been connecting people with nature by building classic Canadian canoe designs using the best materials available. We built a reputation on durable, dependable canoes that allow you to focus on what's important, whether that's unplugging in remote wilderness, spending quality time with your favorite people, or nailing the perfect line. Visit novacraft.com to find the perfect canoe for you and locate your nearest authorized dealer.
Tonight's episode of Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show is brought to you by OTG Meals. Fresh, freeze-dried, small batch meals made for people on the go. Algonquin Outfitters, with 4 key locations in and around Algonquin Park to serve your backcountry needs. Kid Products, stick stoves and reflector ovens proudly made in Canada. And Novacraft Canoes, connecting you with nature in Canadian-made canoes since 1970. And welcome back to the second half of the show, otherwise known as Overtime. We have covered a lot of stuff here with Les, with all the cool activities he has going on to keep him busy in life. But we're really going to get into a little bit more of his music because it is something that's a huge passion for him and something that we're going to enjoy. Just say that, you know what, for any of you that do have questions for Les, please do put them in the comments there. I see I probably got about 8 or 10 quick questions that we can pop up on screen in a little bit for Les to answer, sort of like in a rapid fire type of thing. And then we'll even see if we have enough time that we might be able to bring a few of you up here on panel to ask any questions of Les that you may have. Just keeping in mind that we are on a bit of a time constraint tonight because Les has other things that he needs to get moving on, and we don't want to keep the show much past 9 o'clock. Just like to also, before Les pops back here on screen, because he's not yet in the basement there, not quite prepared, because as he mentioned, he's getting a tea. Just like to thank Claire there. I just noticed you become a member of Canoe Hound Adventures. Thank you very much for that. If you could please drop me an email at canoehound@gmail.com with your information, and we'll get your membership started there by sending out some membership decals. For anybody else that might be interested in becoming a channel member, just click that link down there that says join, and you know what, see what it has to offer. And any support would be greatly appreciated as far as that is concerned. Also, to the many of you that have been throwing super chats into the stream tonight, I've noticed a couple of them there. Alan Bierhoff now, and I think Claire earlier. Thank you very much for that support. It goes a long way. You know what? For those of you that may have met Les at the Toronto Outdoor Adventure Show, it's always such a great opportunity to meet somebody that you may have followed for as long as I have. I know I kind of cut my teeth on a lot of this stuff. I always say that I've had the inspirations of Hap Wilson and Kevin Callan for my canoe careers, but when it comes to survival training or learning how to do out or backcountry stuff, well, as I mentioned earlier, like what Joe Robinette said, Les Stroud is truly one of the originals when it comes to his Survivorman stuff. And the stuff that he continues to put out now is something that's still teaching us what to do now. You know what I mean? Utilize his wild harvest to see how to prepare unique stuffs that might get you out of a jam in the backcountry. If, say, for instance, a bear gets that food barrel or something like that, it might be, a good thing to know how to prepare dandelions or cattails or stinging nettle or whatever it might be. So with that being said, I see Les is getting himself set up here in the basement, and we'll get ready to bring him on. But thank you very much to Claire Alan Bierhoff for your support. And yeah, let's move on with the show. Whoop, there we go. I see some lights changing. I see an arm in there, and welcome back, Les.
Hey guys.
Awesome.
I managed to make a hot chocolate.
Hot chocolate. It's okay. I'm on coffee tonight too. So
I'm just wondering, you mentioned about music and that. I'm wondering if I were to play a file from my computer with one of the brand new songs never heard before, would it show up? Would you hear it on your end? Would that work technologically speaking?
It would work technologically speaking. Let's see. Let me think of the best way to perhaps do that. Do you have a speaker on your desktop?
Well, what I could do is I could go to one right now, and I could do a little. So for your audience, if this is gonna work, what I'm talking about doing here is playing a track from the brand new album, which is called Mother Nature's Son, produced by Colin Linden. And this is a song so apropos for our world, and I wrote it very much based on the things we love. When I play it live, I always say, if you are someone who goes hiking, likes to get out in nature, you'll recognize the lyrics so well. And the song's called Take a Hike. I'm going to play it for 4 seconds, and you tell me if the sound is going to work. Okay, so here we go. Here's a quick little test. So for your audience, sorry guys, Dennis and I are doing this together right now, but let's give this little test and see if it's not going to work. Then I'll just tell you a little bit more about it. So try this. Tell me if this works. Can you hear that? Can you hear that?
Yeah, I think that'll work. Maybe volume down a hair so that any of the highs don't get what's the word? Distortion, right?
Okay.
Yeah, hey, everybody, grab your drinks and your Bic lighters.
You want to hear it?
Yes,
okay,
please.
So,
that'd be awesome.
So all right. So let's slow it down a bit since this looks like it's going to work, everybody. So, by the way, I don't know. Do you know how many people or do you have access to knowing how many people are on right now?
I see right now we have 120 people showing in the chat.
Okay. So, gang. So this is you and I. We're sitting back. We're just chilling. So relax. Take a break here. Give you a second to get settled in your chair. And this is a song I wrote. Actually, it's a kind of a funny story to this song. I have a song called Northern Wilds that I wrote years ago. And it was a bit of a dreamscape of what it would be like to be a couple that just goes off to live life up in the Northern Wilds. And I kind of, wrote it about my then wife, right? And so I still perform that song live, but I always feel a little guilty when I play it because my now wife is there with me, and I always feel I feel a little guilty. So the last time I played it live, I actually rededicated. I said, I'm rededicating this to my wife, Caroline. And so then, with that in mind, I thought I really got to write a song for Caroline, and that's directly, specifically about her and I and hiking. And this is what I came up with. So this is called Take a Hike, and this is a brand new, fresh. This is even unmastered. We're mastering it on Thursday. Colin Linden produced. He plays some beautiful guitar on this, and my guitar is on there, and my singing. So shall I go for it? And Dennis, if it's weird, better to stop it after 10 seconds and start it again than just to let it go if it doesn't sound right. Copy that?
If I need volume up or down, I'll let you know. That's not a thumbs down.
Okay. Okay, here we go, guys. This is called Take a Hike. Brand new song.
Take a hike.
Oh, hang on. Might as well go back to the beginning of it. Come on. There we go. And in.
Let's take a hike on a deep forest trail, brushing past pine boughs and fireweed. We'll know nature prevails. Let's cross a creek by stepping on stones, carrying day packs, apples and trail mix, our forest home. Yes, life is this easy if you'll take a moment to see. Nature is where we are free. Oh, let's climb a mountain, sit at the top, feeling our hearts beat through our chests, never to stop. Let's ride the back roads on fat tired bikes, catching our breath as we race down the hill and turn to the right. Yes, life is this easy if you'll take this moment with me, 'cause nature is where we should be. In the natural world, all your problems unfurl if you'll take a moment to see. Nature is where we are free. So let's fall in love while walking on snow. You can't love a place unless it's a place that you know. So let's take a hike on a deep forest trail, brushing past pine boughs and fireweed. We'll know nature prevails. Yes, life is the season. If you'll take a moment to see, nature's where we are free. Yes, life is the season. If you'll take a moment with me, nature's where we should be.
That is awesome. That's a good tune.
Thanks. I got a little emotional there when I saw somebody say this is going to be our wedding song. I was like, whoa, that was really lovely.
Yeah, that's a couple of people that were on the show a little while ago. Very lovely couple. That yeah, right there.
There you go. So that's Take a Hike, you know, and as I said, musically, I am unashamed about the fact that I write about nature, sing about connecting to the natural world, use nature as metaphors if I'm talking about love instead of nature itself. And I don't shy from that. There's no point. I don't use it as a shtick. It's not a gimmick or an angle. It's me. It's really me. You know, with Colin Linden, you know, he said, he goes, Les, you're bringing a gravitas to this that is unavoidable, and it's an intimate album. So let's go there. So he got it right away too, you know. And Bruce Coburn is a good friend of mine. So I played with Bruce live, and Bruce, I asked Bruce, I said, basically it was just a childhood dream come true. You know, Bruce, would you play on my album? So he plays on a song, plays the guitar solo on a song, which is cool. And that's it. You know, not all the songs are directly like that, but certainly, you know, and even when I do a big release coming up, I'll be releasing, I did a count, and I've got 30 songs that are specifically about nature out of, you know, a couple of hundred songs. So I'll be leading with a lot of those, you know, sort of thing. So it's been a joy. It's been a joy to get back in the saddle musically. I cannot stop myself from writing these days. I'm writing constantly and collaborating constantly. And I guess in the end, I think, you know, Dennis, I just think, hey, somebody's got to, you know, we can't always relinquish lyrical content about nature to a simple folk song, even though that was a simple folk song. I get it, but I do rock as well. But we always think of it as it's just finger picking and it's going to be old timey. It doesn't have to be, you know. And as I said, John Denver as my North Star in all of this, you know, shows that you can write beautiful music that isn't specifically old timey, and still it be about nature.
I know Kevin Callan would agree with you on that there, because he's a huge John Denver fan. So yeah, you know what? There was a comment earlier that I'm trying to find here in the chat. I should have started.
Oh, you're looking for that comment. I will hold up this. This, everybody, is the children's book Wild Outside that I've got going on here. And when you look inside, it's filled with illustrations and photographs. What's really cool too is in some of the cases, the photographs match up with the illustrations. I think page 19 is my favorite example of that, you know. So this is the Wild Outside Around the World with Survivorman. And this is the book for your, well, I guess it's for your 7 to 12-year-olds is what the publisher would tell you, but really 5 to 14-year-olds works pretty well also. And then again, here, I'll just do the little show and tell, Dennis, while you're getting set up there. This is the recipe book from that Paul and I put together from the Wild Harvest series. So again, that is available. And then lastly, what I was saying musically, I suppose I should open this up. But this beautiful work of art is the Mother Earth album, and it's a double. I mean, let me open it for you because it's actually
sealed vinyl.
This was a full on, man, and it was such a thrill for me to say, my God, this is the first album. I've done CDs, I've done online because that's the way the world was going. But now it's back to vinyl, and so this
gotta love that too, right?
It's like double fold out. I mean, it's like circa 1974 kind of album artwork, And this guy is brilliant. It's a gentleman out of Lithuania, and I can never say his name properly. Gediminas is his first name. And he's in Lithuania. The guy's literally a drive away from the war. And he did this and 2 other albums for me. And I liken it to back in the days of Roger Dean doing the albums for Yes. It's just a beautiful. And if you look really closely, I'm actually in the picture. I'm there. And it's a little me. He's even got me carrying a camera. So,
oh, geez, that's cool.
Powerful. Anyway, there you go. There's me schlocking my stuff. Sorry, guys, but
that's okay. No, you know what? That's what it's all about. And you know what? That's that is amazing artwork. Like to depict the whole world like that with it looks like the good, the bad, and the ugly on there, right? So,
and I mean, the idea, not to steal it from him, but the idea was mine. And I said, and I can't draw worth of crap, so I just did a little stick figure thing and said, well, something like the globe, but maybe the globe's a bit of a head. And then he comes back with that. I'm just like, whoa. So it's beautiful. And that album is more progressive rock, pop, adult contemporary kind of stuff. People will know some of those songs. Arctic Mistress is on there, for example. And as I said, I've had the guest play, the beauty of having some guest players / plays on it. Because that the proceeds, this is the other thing, is with the proceeds of my music they're not going to me. They're going to causes and organizations that are protecting nature and wildlife. So that Mother Earth album goes to IFAW, goes to the Dolphin Project, Empty the Tanks, goes to people who I think are doing really good works.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. Geez, that's awesome. Where is this album out now? Can people actually buy this through mail order?
Almost, I'd say June. But if I'm about to relaunch my website and the shop page and all of that, and you can then. Yeah, you can. Okay. It's easy. It's an easy get at that point.
Okay, so there you go, everybody. You got something to look forward to. Something that's a piece of art you can almost put on. Yeah, isn't it great that vinyl's coming back?
Oh, I did the stupid thing, in the 80s, in the mid 80s. I did the dumb thing. I had 500 albums. I got rid of all of them because it's like, oh, it's vinyl's dead. We're going to CDs now. Okay, well. And I was stupid because I had collector's items. I had stuff that things signed by the artist. I had one-offs that were like special press releases that you didn't get, I got rid of all of that. The 2 biggest purges in my life, I like purging, but I sometimes go too far, and I purged all my albums in the mid 1985, and I purged my guitars in 1985. Well, I quit music is what I did at that point. Yeah. And when I did that, that was a big mistake. Never should have done that. I regret that to this day. But now in the vinyl world, I am, and with guitars too, I suppose, I'm back. I'm just back, and we've got a couple of hundred albums, now maybe more than a few hundred albums actually. And it's fun because I don't mind the re-releases, 180 grams, beautiful quality sound. Good by me. I don't need it to be vintage, but in some cases they aren't releasing, try to find, I don't know, Willie Nelson Stardust. It's not released yet on 180 grams. So you got to get the vintage, or some other favorite album that they're never going to release on brand new on vinyl. Re-release, you have to go find it, and I do that weekly. I go hunting for vinyl. It's great.
Yeah, that's when you start hitting up the yard sales, right?
Well,
and hope you don't leave them in the sunshine.
Yeah, and the thing is, I get the argument. Yeah, technically you could say CDs do sound better, but there is a vibe and an ambiance and a feel to vinyl that is it's almost tactile. Well, there's the tactile aspect of putting it on. There's a commitment and a contract you write when you put on an album that you sign, in the air. When you put on an album, it's something special. The first time I did it, when I first got back into it, was the year 2012. It's Christmas time, and I got the record player, stereo set up, and I went out. I got one album, just one. It was Peter Gabriel, first album, and I put it on, and then I went to decorate the Christmas tree. I had to stop because I realized, oh my God, no, I put on the album. I have to sit down and listen, because that's what we used to do. You put on an album. We do it now together. My wife and I will do that with jazz albums, and I introduced her to, like the Kate Bush album, or some early obscure Bruce Coburn or Steve Goodman, like everything. I put it on. You got to listen. It's not a Spotify playlist. It's not on shuffle. Yeah. It's the album Dark Side of the Moon as it was meant to be listened to. And I love that now. And I missed that. And when I put on that Peter Gabriel album that night, I could not decorate the tree. I had to sit, because it was like it was like Peter himself had said, "Hey, do you want to listen to my stuff?" And I said, yes. Yeah. And so I should listen.
Was that the Salisbury Hill album? Or before that?
I think it was. Yeah.
That was probably one of his biggest hits off that album.
Yeah, Here Comes the Flood. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you just finished saying there totally reminded me of, and you'll remember, or you'll recognize this, as the old Memorex. Remember Memorex? They had their one main image was a guy just sitting in the chair, relaxed back, and listening to tunes. Right.
Well, and if you remember the photograph, it was, and then everything was blowing backwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything was blowing backwards from the sound, which is why most of us have tinnitus now. So.
Yeah. Right there, man. That's awesome. So this album then, Les, is this all new stuff, or is this a like you have some remastered hits on there as well?
The Mother Earth one?
Yes,
Mother Earth it's a re-release. No, there's a bonus side, so there's 4 sides. And the original would have filled 3 sides, which it did. And then there's a bonus tracks on the 4th side, and the tracks are remixed and remastered. So, and really, when I put it on the stereo, even for me, and I wrote everything, it's like listening to a whole new album. It's shocking. And there's some co-writers on there. I want to give a shout out to great Canadian rock legends, the Northern Pikes. In the person of Brian Potvin, a guitar player for the Northern Pikes and singer. He wrote She Ain't Pretty, She Just Looks That Way. Well, so Brian and I worked together on a lot of stuff on that album, and some other names, Ian Auger, that you might not be familiar with. But Brian from the Northern Pikes wrote a couple of those songs with me, and I'm very, very, very proud of that album. And that's why, and to go a little deeper is to say, well, what happened the first time around? How come we didn't know about it? Because the record label bungled it. Same old story, they just bungled releasing it. And now I've done what I always do when networks and labels and people mess things up. I pick up the ball and I run with it myself. And that's what I'm doing. I'll release that, re-release Mother Earth, and push it as much as I can, and just get it under the ears, so to speak, of as many people as possible. And after that, it's come what may. I hope they enjoy it.
Do you have your own recording studio, or are you? Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, I have a little satellite studio down here. You thought you were talking to me in Ontario. I'm actually in Oregon right now. Mm-hmm. So I married an American lady. So we live down in Oregon and Canada, up in Canada. I have to do it all legally and properly. So I'm very careful of my dates and my numbers and that sort of thing, crossing the border. But I have a little satellite studio down here in Oregon, and I have a more proper recording studio up in Canada. Now, the beauty of that is that I record a lot of my stuff, including the next projects coming up. A lot of stuff just live off the floor, everybody there, all the musicians together. That's my favorite way. I'm not big on endless overdubs. So I love to. And when you're recording at my place, you're looking out at the lake. So.
Yeah. And most of your recordings, are most of them on the acoustic side?
No, it's an eclectic gamut of music. It depends on which project. So the Let's Take a Hike, that album, the rest of the album more or less fits in with that musical stylings, very, relaxed acoustic. There's some up fun stuff. And then the album I'm doing with Mike Klink down in Los Angeles is much more, adult contemporary, pop rock, I suppose, kind of stuff. Not really pop. I'm not a pop writer, but you get the point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So I mentioned I was looking for a question. I couldn't find it, just sort of scrambling through the chat there. But the question was something along the lines of your music and your love for nature, their crossover points. Is that the biggest inspiration for the type of music that you write? Obviously, is based on your nature experiences or the love for nature?
Well, you said biggest inspiration. I just go with the flow of my stream of consciousness when I write lyrically. I I purposely not tried to write a nature song. It has to appear. That bubble of energy has to land on me. It could be a song about love. It could be a song about hate. It could be a song about society and politics. It could be a song about nature. So I just go with that flow. I guess, maybe though, not surprisingly, the ones that I do write about nature tends to be my stronger material. It's just a natural go-to for me. As I said, I resist very much so letting it be a shtick or an angle. It can't be. Then it's going to be, disingenuous. So it has to hit me the right way. I find when I'm in Canada, I will often write first thing in the morning. I wake up with a tune in my head, and I'll go and I'll sit down, and then often I'll be sitting by the window by the lake. And so the lyrical content, it's right there in front of me. What I haven't done in my life and my career as a musician, and I want to do more now, is I do want to go out into nature with a guitar with the purpose of writing out there. That's something I don't do and never do. I'll go out and adventure without any musical instruments because it's like I don't want that interruption. I want nature. Then when I get home, that percolates into a song. But I want to now go out a little bit more and just be sitting there on the hill and in the forest and playing. So which answers that question, do I ever bring any instruments other than the harmonica? No, I don't usually, but I'm going to now. I'll take my dulcimer out there, take my guitar out there, and then see how that works. And if after half a dozen or 10 trips, I just never really, it doesn't happen, I'll probably stop because I realize, my MO is still just to go and be in nature and bring that back with me. Then when I'm sitting with a glass of wine and a candle burning and it's 2 a.m. and I got the guitar and I'm up alone and it's dark and then I'm writing a song, remembering nature, remembering my connection to nature. I like to allow that percolation, but I'm going to try writing out there.
Awesome. That's cool. It's funny that you answered the question there that I had saved already from the chat. So I've got about 7 questions here that I've starred throughout the chat there because I didn't want them to interrupt what we were actually talking about. So I'm just going to pull a few of them up there. We'll get through a few of them quick questions. And then if we have a bit of time, Les, would you mind if I put the link out there and maybe have 2 or 3 people come in and ask a quick question of you?
Yeah, I think, I've got another, we're good for another half an hour.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So just so everybody knows, I'm going to drop a link here. It's going to be one quick link. I'm not even going to put a description with it, so we can just get it on there quickly. And let's see here. And I'm going to take, we'll just say we'll take maybe 3 people. I'll put 4 in the basement just in case, but we'll put 3 people in the basement and we'll see. But please, if you come up to ask a question, just let it be known that Les actually does have another commitment shortly after 9 o'clock. So we got to wrap the show up at around 9. So we'll get these questions up here. First question that I had marked was from Evan Lefebvre saying, every time I have a camera pointing at myself, I call it the Les Stroud shot. What is it like to have a popularized filming technique where you didn't get the inspiration to do it?
And where did I get the inspiration to do it?
Yes.
It was absolutely necessity being the mother of invention. I was in a situation where I wanted to be able to accurately and authentically show my surviving somewhere. The problem is that if I had a camera crew with me, it just kills the whole thing. There's a crew there. There's guys there. There's people there. You're talking, they're offering you a Mars bar when you're supposed to be starving. So I realized, well, the only way to do this, and that's how Survivorman was created, big part of it was I've got to be alone. I've got to film myself. So out of necessity, in doing that, by the way, I had to learn how to do that because no one had ever done it before. Not at all. That's why, when we go back to what you said in the beginning about me being at the zeitgeist for survival television and bushcraft that's on YouTube and that. And some people get their noses out of joint a little bit. They say, oh, what about Ray Mears? Let's do a proper thing here. Ray Mears, Bush Tucker Man, they were showing bushcraft. They were teaching skills. They were not putting themselves in the middle of nowhere and surviving alone. That's what I started. No, I didn't start bushcraft, and wasn't the first to put bushcrafter on TV. I never claimed that. I said when it comes to survival television, I was the guy. So that was my claim. So a big, huge props to Ray Mears and Bush Tucker Man. But in the filming of myself category, nobody. In fact, to this day, other than now on YouTube, certainly not on television, There's nothing else still on television. Nobody's filming themselves right now. Okay, what about Alone? Okay, so stuff started to come along, but what I had to follow up on was nothing. There was nobody who'd done it before me, with one tiny little exception. My hero, Bill Mason, had filmed himself with a wind-up Bolex camera in the Arctic with caribou and wolves. So he did that, and I thought, which was brutally difficult for him. But anyway, so I had to create this whole thing, and what is it like? It's definitely for Evan LE5. It's definitely a moment of pride. I'd be fake if I didn't say, if I couldn't look at 100 different shows and go, I know where that came from, and not with arrogance or anything like that. More just a matter of I know the history because I was there and I lived it. And even to the point where the way I had to shoot myself traveling with a crew, you don't have to do that. That's why when copycats came along and they pretended to do it, you got Bear Grylls pretending to hold the camera. He's holding the camera that somebody's holding. It's a joke, and in the editing world, my editor had to learn how to edit stuff that no one had ever brought to an editor before. So that whole moment, creatively speaking, was vibrant with knowing we were doing something brand new. It was fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Next question then from Ontario camping couple. This comes from their son, Damien. Survive This was such a great concept and show. Why was it canceled? And would you consider bringing it back? It was the big influence.
Okay, so Survive This. I loved Survive This. I would do many more of them. I'd still do them. We did 2 seasons. It was, what happened was it was with a network that was trying live action for the first time, YTV, I think. And then they decided, no, we're going back to strictly cartoons. No more live action TV for kids. That was the main thing. Now, I can tell you behind the scenes, why haven't I gone, why years later, or why didn't I come back to it? That goes back to signing the wrong contract. And I was advised poorly and signed the wrong deal with a company that to this day sits on that concept, and I'm not allowed to do it. Otherwise, I would have done it. So that's the business. That goes. I made a mistake. It's unfortunate, but there you go. There's your answer. But I agree with you. I loved doing that show.
I've heard of that happening all too often there from other people. I won't mention any names, but the same type of thing where, the creative contracts get in the way of, of them changing or redoing it when it's been pulled, right? So yeah. For sure. Alrighty, Beauty of the Backcountry, the people who would like to use your song for their wedding. Les, through the pandemic, did the lockdowns allow you to have more creativity with the downtime, or did you find it difficult to create music during the pandemic? Now, just for the record, he is a musician as well.
Yeah. So I was in a strange state during the pandemic because I'd already made the decision to back away from a lot of things and get involved musically right before it hit. But then when it hit, it was weird because if I wanted somebody to do an overdub for me in Los Angeles, or I wanted to get a group of musicians together, I couldn't. So regardless of how keen or eager I was, or safety precautions put in place and so on and so forth, couldn't get other people involved. So it ended up just putting a blocker to me creatively. I didn't, and then what took over during the pandemic was producing Wild Harvest. So Kevin and Paul and I got busy producing Wild Harvest. And that's really what I kind of floated on through the pandemic. So strangely for me, I actually waited till the end of the pandemic to get busy again musically, including my own at-home writing. I'm not sure why it became like a big vacation for me in a way, I suppose, because it was just so weird. Everything was weird, and I was just watching the weirdness more than anything else. So
you kind of use it as an opportunity to refuel the system type of thing.
I did. It was more, it was a break, really.
Get some thoughts and more motivation. Cool. Untamed Ontario, who's had a couple of great comments in the chat there tonight. To lay a person such as myself, Canada doesn't seem like a forager's paradise. How much sustenance can actually be harvested from the backcountry at any one point in the season?
Right. So, well, in the spring, a lot. And, ask Fiona Hammersley out of the West Coast, who's a consultant on the show, and she's written a number of books. You can forage across Canada in the spring, summer, and fall extensively once you get to know those plants. But it's tough in the winter. Very little in the winter. It's why I've said you cannot be a vegetarian and practice survival in the far north in the cold season. It's not possible. No matter what you store up, it's not possible. That's why there are a lot of meat eaters as you go north, because that's what's accessible when everything's frozen solid, and sometimes for a very long time. However, you get into spring, have at her. There's so far more than I could ever get into. Thousands of opportunities and plants, and some of them are so easy and so succulent. I mean, and for starters, and since you're a layperson, you want to get started, start with cattail. Always the easiest one to start with. Start with learning the cattail and enjoying the cattail, and that will lead you into a whole other world of wild edibles, because you'll eat the cattail and you go, well, that's really good. And then you start wondering, well, what else is really good beyond berries? We all know the berries, but you get into cattail first. That will lead you into everything else.
Let me ask you a quick question about cattails, and hopefully you know this. You see a lot nowadays. They use cattails in drainage or runoff, storm runoff ponds and stuff like that. Does it matter the water source that you're pulling a cattail from?
Absolutely. Cattail is known as a plant that will suck heavy metals up into its system. So you want to watch Wild Harvest and learn proper harvesting techniques. But you don't, I love teach on Wild Harvest. The last bonus episode we just did was in the middle of Calgary behind a Lowe's department store, because I was showing you can gather right in the heart of a city, but you need to know, first of all, permissions from the people who own the property. Second of all, do they spray there? Third of all, do dogs go there and defecate and urinate all the time? You need to know that. Is there runoff from industry happening in that location? All of that is detrimental. Train tracks are, you can hit the train track in the right season and get so many wild edibles, hit it in the wrong season, and the sprayers have just gone through because they spray herbicide on those train tracks all the time. You can see the brown, they spray, and they spray millions of gallons of that crap. So you do have to be really careful, especially with plants like cattail. They are used for that filtering process. So you just want to know that you're in a good area where, you're not pulling a plant out of runoff from some kind of industry.
Right. Awesome. And I believe I remember that episode where you were harvesting some cattail. That's the one you were like right in the water, like right up there on your belly, and you take it away down there. Yeah, that was a good one. Alan Bierhoff is asking, was your life career at all influenced by films, writings of Dick Proenneke?
Nope, not at all. Everybody wants me to ask me that question. I don't have the same opinion of Dick that everybody else does. Was he an engineering genius? Yeah. Did he create a paradise out there? Absolutely. Was it cool that he filmed a lot of it for some strange reason? Yeah, but if you notice, there's so many of the shots that he took, it's him walking away. And that's another guy that can get mentioned, by the way, as far as filming himself. He didn't do that good of a job. He didn't really understand how to film himself well. But the problem I have with Dick Proenneke is, and why I don't say, oh, he's my North Star, he's my idol, is because the man lived for 35 years completely alone in the wilderness. Come on. You don't do that if there's not some issues there. That's the reality of it. When people go off and live by themselves alone in the woods for 35 years, there's something going on there, and likely some kind of mental illness. So I'm not about deifying Dick Proenneke or Chris McCandless from Into the Wild. Dick, sadly, I'm sure he was a lovely man, and he died in the city in a hospital. But I'm not about to go live by myself for 35 years in the middle of the wilderness. I like people, and I love adventuring and canoeing and all that sort of stuff. So he was never, I learned of his stuff along the way. I'd already started Survivorman before I ever saw his work. Same thing for Ray Mears. I wasn't familiar with Ray's stuff until many years after Survivorman. Bush Tucker Man I knew ahead of time. Yeah, I loved his stuff. So Dick's stuff, it's one thing. It's Man in the Wilderness or whatever it's called. And it's that one thing in the story of his life. I think that it's really cool that he had the skill set that he did. But I would never advise anybody to go live by themselves for 35 years in the wilderness.
There you go.
I don't mean to be so condescending. I'm sorry. It's just I get that Dick Proenneke question all the time. I'm just like, you want to admire somebody? Admire Bill Mason. There you go. There's someone to admire. Bill Mason. I'd rather bring up Bill and his love of nature and filmmaking and all of that. And yeah, there you go.
Perfect. Alrighty, and now Jennifer is asking, would Les have any suggestions on how to locate reputable foragers in Northern Ontario?
Yeah, reputable in quotes. It's tricky. Take a course, take the courses. I love taking courses. I recently took a mushroom course, because I'm out on the West Coast in Oregon and I don't know the mushrooms as well out here. And I learned some new mushrooms. It was phenomenal. So take a course. That's the best way. Go out for them for a weekend or a Saturday. Find the people who are putting on courses through your local colleges. Go with them and learn that. And that's the way to connect with cool people. And then someone in that class is going to say, oh, have you taken, Nancy Smith's class over in Ottawa area? Oh, you really should. She does an amazing mushroom class. Oh, okay, I will. So that's the way to do it, is find a single course somewhere through Humber College, or Laurentian College, wherever you live, and take a course. And that's a big message of Wild Harvest is you can watch my show, you can read the books, you can go online, but there is no substitute for a teacher teaching you on location how to pick it, taste it, touch it, smell it, recognize it. You need a warm body there, because I myself still will look straight at a plant. Everything says this is the plant I can eat. And I'm still like, I don't know. Shoot, I don't know. And if someone else was there going, I can promise you from years of experience, this is absolutely the right plant. Let's pick it. Go ahead, have a taste. That's what you need to learn. Local foraging are great instructors. And there's lots of them now because everybody's getting into it. Just be careful. Be careful when they start waxing on and on about the medicinal qualities of this and that, or you need to do this for that. Be careful with that, because they're grabbing from a bunch of books and a bunch of folk remedies, and then they're teaching it in a class. What you really want to learn from let me, I've never gone down this road before. Succinctly though, what you really want to learn about local foraging from a forager, first and foremost, is identification. That's what you want to learn. Take that away. Then do extensive research into the safety of this plant.
Yeah, for sure. And you, for your Wild Harvest, I'm sure you're consulted as well as to what by locals or people that know, because
all the time.
Yeah,
all the time. Yeah.
Better to be safe than sorry, right? I have a friend that I had no idea up until this past summer that this guy is a mushroom forager. And this guy he knows his stuff. I should have him on the show sometime because this guy knows his mushrooms. And we went on a canoe trip last year, and before you know it, we're eating hedgehog mushrooms, morels, or all these different types of mushrooms that he goes, yep, this is good. And I went out foraging with him, and he says, no, you want to leave that alone. He says you could eat it, but it's like eating shoe leather, and or it's really bitter. So yeah,
it's about confidence. You want to pick and eat with confidence, and if you can't, don't pick it, don't eat it.
Yeah, Jennifer, just for the record, I don't know what area you are in, but if you're anywhere around the Halliburtons, check out Yours Outdoors. I know they offer a course in wild edibles, so you might want to look that up if you're in that neighborhood. All righty. Our last question is actually by somebody who is right down here in the basement right now. So we've got 3 guests in the basement. Guys, try and keep it, please, to about 4 or 5 minutes because we are about 13 minutes out from the close of the show. So first person I'm going to bring up is Marty Morissette. Marty, how you doing tonight?
Doing great, man. How are you?
And here's your question that you had asked that I had starred in the comments. So I'll let you ask.
I'm super excited to hear that. So what's your writing process like from one musician to another? Like, do you always just sit behind your guitar and start strumming and finding riffs and then see where that goes? Do you write? Do you do a lot of essay writing just for trying to get the ideas out, see what comes out? Like, how do you engage with the muse essentially? Right. Like classic, what's that book? The War of Art, right?
War of Art.
Yeah.
It's well, for me, it's a couple of different avenues that I travel. I had the as I said, I'm very blessed with having been able to strike up a friendship with someone I respect greatly, which is Bruce Coburn. Mm-hmm. And I asked him one time, and I was shocked when Bruce actually said straight out, he goes, I always start with the words. I thought, you're such an amazing guitar player. Aren't you noodling and playing around? And then Bruce is a poet. He's a poet first. He always starts with the words. And then when I listen back to his stuff, it's like, I get it now. I can tell he starts with the words now that I listen back, even though he's a brilliant player. For me, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. It depends on where I am. If I'm stuck on a plane, then the words are going to come first, because all I can do is type it in my notes. Like, oh, that's a cool lyrical concept. And then the next line, and if I start seeing 2-3 lines in my head, I'll just whip that down in text form on a note, or on my laptop, or on a piece of paper. What I've discovered recently, with being much more prolific about it and being more focused on it, I guess I should say, is because the question is about how we engage the muse. It's a wonderful subject matter, and I'll try not to talk for half an hour on this. But Tom Waits has a great
I knew my
story.
question wouldn't be the problem for the timeline.
Yeah. Well, Tom Waits has a great reference to that, saying, how they're bubbles that float around, and they are either receptive. There's that, right? I think these muses, they come to you as a bubble of energy, and you are receptive or not, or they come out of your sheer creative skill set, or they come out of a collective of life experiences, and it just makes sense. And all of those can make music, and they can make lyric, they can make storyline. And Tom Waits says he's driving along, and his song came into the back seat, and the song was sitting there in the back seat, and finally goes, "Wow, I'm driving right now. Why don't you go bother Leonard Cohen?" Right? Giving the point that these things have a life of their own.
Of course.
To that, what I've found that I'm doing a lot lately is I tend to wake up in the morning. My wife's gone. She's out there. I wake up in the morning, dog's still laying on my feet, right? And there's this melody in my head, and maybe, if I'm really lucky, a lyric line attached to it. And now I gotta say, that song, "Take a Hike," for example, not to put too graphic of an image to it, but I have walked to the piano and the guitar butt naked more times than I can remember, because I got to get it down. And that's taken a cue from the likes of Prince and a lot of artists who, when the muse strikes, you interrupt your meal, you interrupt your phone call, you interrupt your day, and let the music flow. That's when that muse is so powerful that it's a ball of energy. You interrupt everything. And for me, it's waking up in the morning. I'd rather put my clothes on, brush my teeth, make a cup of coffee, sit down at the piano, write the song. But the song is saying, get out of bed, but it's cold. Get out. This is good, isn't it? Because I know. So why? Why do I get it? Because I know. If I don't, it's gone.
Yeah,
just like
they are momentary, eh?
Right? You forget the melody. Yeah. You forget the chord thing you were going to do. You forget the riff. You forget the lyric line. It's like, and you think sometimes that, like, this is the greatest lyric line I've ever written. I'm not going to forget this. And you do, because you didn't write it down. And
but do you also, so waking up in the morning, so that's interesting. Do you get any creative, like, where do you get like your inspiration creatively? Like, I get mine a lot by running. Like, I'll go out on long runs, and then these ideas just keep popping. So I just voice text to myself as I'm running. Like, is there something that that you're like, man, I'm stuck, I need to I need to, anyways.
Well, I do run, and I do push and hike. It's more about relaxing. I'm not one to say that meditation is, although I do some. I think it's really about me relaxing and not forcing it. Now, if I want to force it, if I want to force the issue with my skill set as a musician, those come late at night, because late at night is when I'm sitting there, I'm relaxed. Maybe it's because I've had a glass of wine, maybe something else, maybe who knows, but I'm chilled. The candle is burning. Now what I do is I pick up the guitar and I noodle, and I noodle, and I noodle. And I might go through 12 versions of a noodle. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, that's a cool little riff. Where's that going to lead? And that's a different style of writing. So the morning, I find, is I can't help myself, I got to write this. The late evening is like, I'm just going to noodle. And oftentimes, and so when I can hear it in my songs, my vibier songs are written late at night. My to the point, more specific or precise songs, both lyrically and in formula, are written in the morning. And that's kind of what I'm going with these days. But what I'm not, I know some tremendous writers will get up every day and start writing at 9 o'clock. I get that. doesn't really work for me. I know there are brilliant talents that can do that. I like to be a little more, I don't know, airy about it and just let the muse do its thing.
Well, thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to ask too many questions.
No, but it's
All
a good
good,
question.
all good.
You know, if you're going to ask me about songwriting, right? I mean, we could, as I said, we could go on to half an hour on that. But as far as, and the last thing I'll just say to close it off then is to say, as far as the inspiration, you know, well, here's the last bit of tidbit I'll say is, let's say I want to write a song about being really brokenhearted. I do it because I don't say, oh no, I need to write about pine trees. No, I need to get that out of my system. I've written lots of songs knowing halfway through it's not my best work, but I commit to finishing it so that it's out of my system. Even if later I know that's only going to exist on a hard drive.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
We'll catch up later.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marty. Appreciate it. All right. Wow, that's pretty cool. Next we got just a couple more in the basement there, Les. Nishargo, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. It's great to talk to you, Les, finally. Can you hear me well?
Yep.
Yes, we got you.
Cool. So yeah. So I'm also from Toronto. I'm a student here, but over the summer I do bushwork, like I do tree planting, and it's great. Like it's hard work, it's a lot of bugs, but I feel a lot more like motivated and fulfilled for my day-to-day life. But it's just like when I come back to the city, like it's I find it really hard to adjust back to day-to-day life. Like I don't the people aren't the same, and my priorities aren't the same. And like I guess my question is kind of like, in your experience, because I know you're from the Toronto area, right? What was it like a hard choice for you between lifestyles, between like a city or a regular life versus the call of the wild? Or did you ever, in your younger days, could you strike like a happy balance between the two?
So there's kind of 2 points to this, and I want to remember the second point, but the first point to answer your question is I didn't really strike a happy balance until I was much older, successful with Survivorman, had financial means. And I'm not even sure if I would say I struck a happy balance. I just found a balance. But in your position, in my time, I couldn't wait to escape the city. I hated living in the city. I was a late bloomer with it. But once I found my avenue, which it ended up, so I started, you know, being like you're doing the tree planting. I did tree planting, you know, but I started doing guiding, but I was an apprentice, you know, a volunteer apprentice. Oh, then I was getting paid, you know, sort of in there. Oh, no, I'm guiding some of my own trips, but every year September comes and it's all over. Blackfeather doesn't need me anymore. Wilderness Canoe Tripping Association doesn't need me anymore. Temagami Wilderness Center is closing up, you know. And that drove me insane. I don't want to go back. Ah, crap, I'm back in the city. I hated it. I made the change, and you should too. Find the way. Eventually, I went from expanding my guiding season, which was canoeing, and then there was hiking, and then I could bring in some dog sledding and winter camping in the winter. So I'm up and back until finally I got a position at a lodge, which was full-time. I left the city at 30 years of 29, 30 years of age, and I've never been back. I've never been back. You will never get me to live in a city again. My happy balance that exists now as a mature adult is that I have means, and I do like the city. I like going to see Sting in concert. I like going to have a fine meal at a restaurant. I like going, you know, so on and so on. But I also like to go hiking and be with my dogs in the bush, and Caroline and I go canoeing. Okay, so my real answer then on the first set part of this is, if you're unhappy, you know, with that double life, and you're happy with the wilderness life, then find everything else you can do in the wilderness and do it and do it and do it until some point you're going, well, I'm going to take this job and it means I need to get a place in Mattawa, Ontario, because I'm, you know, working at this lodge that's, you know, or they're going to house, a lot of times the jobs in the north, it's great that they house you, right? Or they're going to house me, you know? So to me, I say, go for it, do it, leave the city, screw the city. You know, I could care less about the city. You know, I use the city now for my entertainment, but I still live in the country, and you won't, that'll be till I die. So there's that. The second part of that is, I'll just add this on as an addendum. Don't try to move for the romanticism of it. Everybody thinks they're going to go live in a log cabin in the north. I think it's so romantic, and it is intense to live in a log cabin remotely in the north. And you have to be ready for a lot of loneliness. You miss your family. You're cut off from society. You don't even know what's going on in the world anymore. And it's amazing how quickly people compromise. They think they're going to go up and they're going to live close to the land. Next thing you know, they have to buy snowmobiles and ATVs. And now they're hunting and they swore they'd never hunt and all that stuff, because life in the north, in the remote, is a whole, you're in for a pound, in for a penny, in for a pound. You're all in or you're not. There's no double life. You either have a cottage and live in the city, or you live in a log cabin and there is no city. But what we're talking about originally is more about a life in the north, a life in nature. And that, I was told when I was in my 20s, is not possible. That's a lie. It's possible. Find the jobs, find the positions, find the ones that extend into winter and the fall. And I wish I could swear, so I'll say it nicely. Forget the city. There you go. Yep. That's my unabashed answer to you.
Everybody knows that you were thinking so much,
there, Les. Appreciate it, Vlad.
Shargo, thanks very much. That was a great question, actually.
Thank you, Dennis, for listening.
Thank you.
You want to know about life in the north, man? Ask Hap Wilson. Hap will tell you what it's like to have a cabin in the woods, as I have. You know, it's work, man. Yeah. And when my wife Sue and I spent a year living in the woods alone up there, I mean, you know, we adored every second of it. But anything to do, but we were all in, man. It was like, screw the city, screw society. Like, you literally turn your back on society if you want to live in a remote log cabin. That's different from having a life in the north.
Yeah. Awesome. I don't think I'm ready yet for the log cabin experience. I feel like I need a couple more people to, you know, to indoctrinate into that lifestyle. You know what I mean?
Well, keep doing those jobs. Keep finding the jobs, the positions, even if they don't pay well. Anything that gets you out of nature, say yes and go do it.
Thank you, Les. I will.
Awesome. Thanks, Shargo. Have a great evening.
You too.
All right, that was a cool question. I admire that. What you said.
I don't get to answer that question very often, and that's why you saw me go off on the whole log cabin living thing. Is I see people romanticize that far too much. I've done it, absolutely done it for years, and it's not what people think it is.
The whole Dick Prenicky thing, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Bluefin, how you doing, man? Long time no see.
Doing good.
Great. You have a question for Les?
Quick question, Les. You're out in the woods, camping or hiking. You want a cup of tea or a quick meal? Are you going to use an alcohol stove, a fire, canister stove? What's your method to cook?
You talking about a mug up?
Yeah.
I'm going to use any method that is available to me. I love them all. We talked earlier about this whole bushcraft culture and you know, so much is going on that way. I don't obsess. I'm more about just being there. So if we're going to work with a Coleman stove and I'm going to go like, you know, pumping the gas, good by me, man. All I care about is that mug up of that tea, watching that moose walk over there by the swamp, smelling the pine and the spruce. So I don't have a go-to. I suppose let me backpedal a little and just say, I guess I'm a little bit addicted to natural fires, so probably just a natural fire. But I'm also, you know, that comes with the caution. You got to be really good at it. And I can make a fire in the forest, and then when you come along after, you don't even know I had one. So that's how do you do that, right? And that's all part of the process, is being able to do that and then not leave behind a big scar. But I use them all. I will say, I mean, I can betray the fact that, yeah, I've been a gear geek lots of times in my life. And so playing with gas stoves and all these, there's so many new inventions for stoves now. I've played with them all, and they're all a lot of fun. Anything that gets me out there.
Cool. Sorry, I just had to put you on mute there, Mustang, because your YouTube volume must be causing us a bit of feedback there.
Okay.
So did you have another quick question for Les, or would that be that?
Oh, we're all good.
Yep.
We're all good.
Awesome. Was there anything else there, Mustang? Or
no, that's great. Thanks very much. Enjoyed the show.
Thanks very much for coming up. It's been good to see you. I haven't seen you in quite a while. All right. And then we have one final person to come up and ask a question. And what would an episode of Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure be without Kevin Callan?
I was just going to say it's not Kevin, is it? Oh. Well, guys, I think everybody should sit back now. We're going to be another 90 minutes.
No.
70.
No. Another 120 minutes. Les, how you
doing? Good, Kevin.
This is fantastic. I'm on the road tour just like you. 2 questions. One is, how do you keep going? How do you keep going?
Life is short. And I intend to milk the most out of every day that I've got. I've heard, I want to live to 100 and I want to be spry in doing so. And how do I keep going? If I don't, what else am I to do? Retire? Should I retire? My wife's a doctor. I could. Should I ignore the muses that come along, whether it's writing a new book, making a new film, or writing a song? Should I ignore them when they wake me up in the morning? How do I do it? How do I keep going? We have a lot to give. And those of us who love nature, as you do, Kevin, we have a lot to give and a lot to share. And we all give and share in different ways, which means we resonate with different people. And I have my way, and that's just my way. It's not the way. So knowing that, I keep going because I have my way, and my way wants to keep coming out. I just, life is short, and we have been so freakishly lucky to be Canadians and to have what we have. I mean, goodness gracious, Kevin, you and I can go to Killarney tomorrow. We could go to Temagami the day after. I mean, holy crap, So I guess that, I don't know. We all have our different energy levels, but I have no intention of stopping, and nor should you.
That's cool. That's cool. So if you always love your music, and last time I was with you, you had a guitar beside you. I'm not sure if you have one now.
Yeah, well, you weren't on earlier, were you? You missed the music, dude.
Yeah.
I know. I just got in. I lost my voice. I'm on tour. I don't know where I am. It's crazy. But
you're gonna have to, when this is online, you're gonna have to go back and you have to watch what you missed, and you can.
Man! All right. So here's the question, though, to finish this: if you had to say what was the last or greatest comment or chorus or whatever of your music, the one line that would symbolize what you were about, that you've written in your music, what would that be?
Ooh, well, if you hadn't thrown in that symbolized what I'm about, if it had been just a line that I was super proud of, I might say something like, in the Arctic Mistress song, I've got a line in there.
Well, that's good. That's good.
About seeing glaciers that melt into tears.
Yeah.
I always was happy with that line as a poet. Recently, the song we just played, which was called Take a Hike, I was really happy with the honesty of writing those lyrics about hiking with my wife. And I smirk a little when I think of the line, let's cross a creek by stepping on stones. I mean, it's just obvious. It's right on the nose. But I thought to myself, who else is going to write that lyric? I am. I'm going to write that lyric. Let's cross a creek by stepping on stones. And the minute that I say that line, I think everybody can. It's in all those of us who hike, kaboom, we've got it in our brain. We know what it's like to cross a creek by stepping on stones. And lastly, Kevin, I would say, now that I'm speaking, I would suppose one of my favorite lines in the Northern Wild song, which I talked about earlier, I mentioned in there, and I said a line, and I thought only those people who've actually ever gone snowshoeing will know really what I mean here, because I don't say snowshoeing. I say, oh gosh, I'm gonna get the line right now. Even in the winter, when some folks stay indoors, and this is the line, they rode upon wood and rawhide on the frozen lakes, on the creeks and frozen lakes. So to say they rode upon wood and rawhide while hiking, only people who've ever snowshoed go, oh, I know. They can reference that. It's in their brain. So I do. I mean, not that I don't like more even obscure or arcane poetry. I do like making people work, but I also, when it comes to nature, I love hitting it on the nose and saying, let's cross a creek while stepping on stones, because we don't get to hear that other than you and I both love John Denver. Other than John Denver, maybe Ian Tamblyn, we don't get to hear David Hatfield, as I mentioned earlier. We don't get to hear lyricists write about this stuff that we love so much, paddling a canoe, the call of the loon. And so I like putting those things in my lyrics in a big way.
Cool.
If I could interject for a second, Les, please don't say that crossing the creek or by stepping on stones. Please don't say that you wrote that naked. Okay.
You'll ruin it. Oh, no, but I might have crossed the creek.
One of the greatest moments I've had with you, Les. Sorry, I've lost my voice. I'm on tour right now and I'm burnt out. But the greatest moment is when you and I were presenting at the Toronto Island for Mount Nakootencoa, right?
Yes.
And you presented, I presented, and we were taking the ferry across back homeland, whatever. And I had a barrel full of magazines I was giving off, and nobody was there, so I had a whole bunch of magazines left. And we got off there. You went to the right, I went to the left, and I put the barrel down because it was too heavy. And some guy mugged me. He grabbed my barrel. I don't know if you remember this. It was years ago, man. And it was so heavy, he fell to the ground. And I looked at you, and you're like, "Survive, man." And it was the most funniest moment ever. I'm not sure why I'm rambling off with it, but yeah, I'm burnt out. So
yeah, that's okay, man. Well, it's good to see you again, Kevin. And thank you for asking about the lyrical stuff. It's actually, we didn't, I mean, I think last time Dennis and I spoke, we actually talked a lot about canoeing, which of course.
Yeah.
But this time we talked a lot about my music, but that's very much in keeping because, as I said, and this is for everybody who's still listening to this, is that, I'm happy to in my own small way, carry on the torch for the likes of Ian Tamblyn, who's still writing, I'm sure, and John Denver and David Hatfield and the very few writers in this world that have let their lyrics focus on the natural world. And I can't stop. I mean, I don't have a choice in the matter. I'm going to write broken heart songs and love songs and so on and society songs, but I'm also going to, 30% to 40% of my work is always about nature.
I always say that actually singing and songwriting was always, I've known you for a long time, was always the thing. Like you loved it. You loved it. And I've been at shows when you did that and people were saying, well, I just want to know what kind of bugs you ate. Right.
Yeah.
But it was always that whole thing where you just wanted to sing to the audience.
Well, and, to be, candid about it, I did learn along the way that I need to honor people who've shown up to meet me who are Survivorman fanatics. I honor that all the time. So even if I do a musical concert, like coming up at the Neat Cafe outside Ottawa there, I will take 20 minutes and do a Q&A about Survivorman to honor that fact, but then play the music. I think part of, the bottom line is Survivorman is just what gave me a career, a life. It's what made me that guy. Fine, wonderful, love it. But I'm not a one-trick pony, and I never will be. And that's what I think people who are a little obsessive forget, and then they just want you, they just like, hey, Les Stroud's here. Is he going to build a shelter? Yeah, they just, and I mean, I'm not that I promote this guy in any way, shape, or form, but I just know he's popped into my head. Joe Rogan is an MMA guy, and he's a podcaster, and he's a stand-up comedian. Those can be three. They can be mutually exclusive, but he does all three. So people who love him for his martial arts thing might not actually think he's funny. People who like him for stand-up comedy might not give a crap about his martial arts. And it's like that similar things. Like people might not care about my music. I don't care. I'm still going to do it, So, but there's definitely there's definitely a meshing here of the stuff that the three of us and everybody listening to this loves so much, and that is nothing more, nothing less than paddling a canoe, and pitching that tent. That will always. I can't think of anything more enjoyable. I've been trying. I'm 60 now, and I have not seen anything more enjoyable in my life than what we all do. So
that's cool.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's a great way to end this, isn't it, Dennis?
It is.
That's a great way to end this for sure.
Fantastic.
Besides, I just had a big mug of hot chocolate and I really got to pee.
Let's close this thing up. You know what? It's been a great evening. Kevin, thanks for popping in. If you want to hang out for the green room, please do. Kevin, we'll talk soon. By the way, Iron Man down there, he did 5 presentations in like 5 hours at the Canoecopia. So
yeah.
So I don't know why Kevin is asking me about being unstoppable, because Kevin's unstoppable far more. He's got way more energy than I do.
Yeah, no, no.
Okay.
But
Kevin,
I missed you, Kevin, at the Outdoor Adventure Show, apparently just by an hour. So I'll see you at the next one for sure.
Well, you and I missed talking to you. I was so busy, and there was a moment where like, oh, come on, I'm so freaking busy. I even can't talk to my buddy. The world's wrong.
You and I were beside each other for an hour or 3 hours signing. You were signing books, and we hardly said a word. So
it's fine. It's fine. It's all good, actually. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, Dennis, again, always a pleasure. We're
you.
going to do this again, I'm sure, within a year or so. And so hopefully, you know, all of this music that I have coming out will be for front and center. The children's book, which is again up for its 4th national award now, and then more Wild Harvest on television and all of that stuff. So it's been a pleasure talking about all of that, and I'll let you know how it's all going probably within a year.
That's awesome. I look forward to it. I look forward to seeing all this come out. Les, you know what? Thank you very much for taking the time to do this. I know how busy you actually are, and it really means a lot to myself, but even more so, it means a lot to our viewers there. We've maintained well over 100 viewers throughout the show, and I'm sure we're going to have many more after the fact with the rebroadcast. So, you know what? Thanks very much for sharing your experience. It's so great to hear all the different things that you're up to these days, and keep it going, man. I love it. I love it.
Make sure my office gets the link so I can share it as well. And as always, we all bow at the altar of Hap Wilson.
Yes. Don't even know if he was in the chat tonight. So
probably not, and he's going to laugh that I did that. Hap, you owe me a scotch. We're way overdue, so I'll see you up in Huntsville. All right, guys. Pleasure, Kevin. So lovely that you were here. Thank you. Good to see you again, Dennis. We will talk soon. I'm gonna bow out and go pee, and then I got to go write some music.
All righty, man. You take care of yourself. Have a great day. Cheers. Okay, Kevin, I will see you in a few short moments. Hang around a bit there. Well, everybody, I hope you all enjoyed getting to learn a little bit more about the other side of Les Stroud beyond Survivorman. He is a multifaceted fellow who really has his hands in a lot of egg baskets, and you know what? He's doing some great things. It's great to see that he's really reaching out to the younger generation with his book, his new VR game that's about to come out, and as well, keeping us entertained and informed when it comes to Wild Harvest and things of that sort. And you know what? His music, you could tell, I'm very sure you can tell how passionate Les is actually about his music. So, you know what? Keep an eye out for what he's got coming down the pipe there with Mother Earth. It sounds like it's going to be really interesting. And who would not want a copy of that? Even if, like, not only for the music, but the beautiful artwork on that. It's that's the one thing about LPs is there was always some really nice artwork on there. Anyways, just before we do close up, just want to announce that next week on the show, we will have Friends of Wabakimi on here. For those of you that might be interested in learning a little bit more about Wabakimi, the Wabakimi area and Wabakimi Provincial Park, which so many people are paddling these days. Not as many as you think, but you know what? If you're wanting to learn a little bit more about that, be sure to tune in next Tuesday evening as we will have Friends of Wabakimi on. Also, as I mentioned, next Saturday, or next weekend at the Toronto Sportsman Show. I will be there on Saturday at the Kid Products booth between noon and 3 o'clock. If you happen to be there, stop on by. I'll have a few decals for you. And I think that's probably about it. So I hope everybody really enjoyed tonight's broadcast as much as I did. So if you come in late, go back to the beginning and check out Les's song that he's just about to launch and has remastered. So it's a good one. Anyways, everybody, have a great week. See you next week. And keep the adventure.